Hey guys, thanks for joining us on our first episode of the PokeBroadcast. So you got Nick, Quentin, Jack, and I here, and we're going to be talking about a couple different things. First of all, Darkness Ablaze, and then a little bit about the what is the tournament called?
Pog?
I totally just
The
blanked
Pog
on it.
Championships?
Pog, yeah.
Pog.
Yeah, and talk about Pog, and then the decks that are doing well in it, and we'll go over some of those cards in a little bit more detail. So let's get started on Darkness Ablaze. Who has cards that they're really looking forward to playing, and who thinks what's going to be good, guys?
I guess.
Well, I think.
Oh, sorry. You go, Quentin.
Go ahead. No.
Okay, I'll go.
No.
Okay, so I guess one thing that I've been considering a little bit, just one of the new VMAXs out of the set is Center Scorch VMAX. Pretty straightforward card. You know, it's just for 2 colors. It does 40 damage, and it does 40 more damage for each fire energy attached. And after you do damage, you can get a fire energy from the discard pile and attach it to the Center Scorch VMAX, powering up for next turn to do even more damage. You know, a lot of people have been testing it and getting some mixed results, but I think you know, it has a strong potential moving forward, just because, I mean, you can play Welder with it, and Welder's a good card, so.
Yeah, I'll second
Welder
that.
isn't very good.
I think Welder's pretty broken. But even like the games Nick and I were playing for the video, like we didn't really have a bad game, and it was very consistent, the list that we had built, and being up against other top decks in those matches
Yeah, the cats are dying in the background there.
proved to be pretty. I'm trying to ignore it and not giving attention to it, but I think we played against Eternatus and ADP.
Is Eternatus and Pikarom pre-rotation. I think
Okay,
at least the Pikarom is
but
pre-rotation.
in that Eternatus matchup. Yeah, but either way, it was still like really good. It never really ran dry. It's consistent, and I think that going into this season, I kind of slept on it at first too, because I thought, yeah, Welder's great, but I just didn't think like later in the game it would be able to keep the consistent energy enough to like do the one shots. But honestly, with having 320 HP, you're not getting one shot back, or rarely at all. So not being able to like respond with one shots over and over isn't the biggest deal. And turns out the energy problem really wasn't much of a problem at all. So I think that, in my opinion, I think Center Scorch is probably my favorite card to come out. I'm not sure if it's the best. The set's only just a week or 2 old. So yeah.
True. I think a couple of the obvious standouts from the set, from the leaks whenever we first got the set, were Crobat V. Obviously, Shaman EX was great back when it was in format, so obviously Crobat V is going to be great, especially because this format seems to be focused a lot more on like Pokemon and supporters for consistency rather than items, and especially with a few item lock attackers being out, it seems like a pretty obvious play. Crobat in just about anything that you can fit it in.
Yeah, for sure.
Oh yeah, having Crobat around as like a really new staple consistency card. Not being as strong as Shaman, because you can only play it once in turn, or use the effect once in a turn. And then also giving up the 2 prize liability. You also have to den around still Eldegoss now. Like you were saying, everything's kind of focusing more on ability-based support effects, and not so much super aggressive items, which we saw a lot of in the past, and I was never a big fan of. And it's still kind of that way with things like ADP Zacian, just being able, and now having Turbo Patch in that deck as well, just getting the first turn Altered Creation off with that, along with Energy Switch even, is really strong. And if not, they can still easily do 230 on the first turn if the option's there. So that's what I wanted, is like, I want the game to focus more on just slowing down, but it doesn't look like it's totally going that way. But having these cards out as well is really strong. And then the addition of Vikavolt V as well proving to be super strong out of the gate because we had things like Seismitoad EX back in the day, and even older than that, Defen off of Dialga G. Just being able to lock your opponent out of items, especially on the first turn, is obviously really strong. And then having a backup attack, just doing 190, discarding 2 energy, is really strong as well when you have options like Tapu Koko V to bring the energy back, and you have Turbo Patch as well. So really just like you can slow them down and then still have that big knockout turn that Seismitoad really lacked, that Vigavolt really just works well with, and in my experience playing it, I really enjoyed having that option there, and I think it's not arguably, it is a much stronger card than Seismitoad. Kind of comparing the two, the formats that they were in, I can see it being, if not like the best thing now, obviously later down the line becoming probably the best card if things don't, keep going as aggressive as they are. Everything with Gmax is having so much HP and stuff.
Yeah,
that's just my thoughts.
I would argue that Vigavolt is not actually as strong as Seismitoad was back in the day, because Seismitoad, while it does do 20 less damage than Vigavolt, it's also 1 energy attachment. You just need to find a double colorless energy, and also it had the benefit of using Burbank City Gym and Hypnotoxic Laser to do more damage. So now you're doing 60 a turn, kind of 90 if it comes back into your turn, and the possibility of keeping them asleep, and when you're item locked and asleep back then, you really had no way to switch out of it. So I would argue that Seismitoad back then is a little bit stronger than Vigavolt is now. Just Vigavolt's damage output is a little low, and you just have to work harder to get it out. But I mean, Vigavolt's still a very strong card for the reasons you said.
Yeah, I see that, and then but I see that, and I was playing around with Andrew Mahomes' list where he played the Galarian Slowbro and Birdkeeper and Dark City along with Team Yellhorn to confuse. So, and it sounds like a lot at first, which I thought, and after playing the deck a good amount of times, it's actually rather consistent. Just being real aggressive with like the dens and drawing cards around, having that +3 off the Birdkeeper and switching, having that free retreat. It's a lot more to do, obviously, than just playing a laser in a stadium. You have to play a significantly more amount of cards, but I think having that as well, yes, is still effectively less damage, but I think it's a very strong card. I don't think the energy is too big of a deal when with things like like I mentioned, the Vigavolt and Turbo Patches. Yes, it's not guaranteed where you have the 2 and 1 energy to put on there, but I don't know. I really like it at the moment, and so I think I would like to see it do a lot better later on.
It's definitely so good. Trey, did you have any Pokemon from Darkness Ablaze that you were really looking forward to that you thought were really cool?
Well, for deck-wise, I really enjoyed. Well, I'm a very big fan of Mad Party. Obviously, that one was something I was very excited for. Specific cards, I mean, I think you guys touched on a lot of them. Were Centiskorch, Eternatus, Crobat, Vigavolt. Had actually not seen that Familiar Bell was in the set. That's going to be incredibly powerful along with Turbo Patch. But I think a lot of the cards that I'm pretty excited for, we kind of covered. We covered them pretty extensively.
Yeah. You guys can't see this, but for my visual, I put up all the Mad Partiers, and I have like one in each corner for us. Thought it was fun.
Which one am I?
So I am Bunnelby, Quentin is the Dene, Trey is Mr. Rhyme, and Jack is Poltergeist. To be fair, I put the images on before I knew where everyone would be in the Discord call. I just put them in different corners. But I guess a big one that we haven't really talked about actually yet is I clicked the wrong thing. Eternatus VMAX. Obviously,
very true.
Probably the most hyped, one of the most sought after cards in this set, just because I mean, it's freaking huge. It does a lot of damage. You know, Eternal Zone makes it so you can have up to 8 dark Pokemon in play, but only dark Pokemon.
Mm-hmm.
But then it's Dread End attack for a dark energy to colorless.
On your bench.
On your 8 on your bench.
8 on your bench.
8
So
on your
9
bench.
in play.
Yes, that is correct. So then, yeah, Dread End for dark and a colorless. It does 30 times the number of dark Pokemon you have in play, so you can hit up to 270 with that, which is a very good number to hit. One shots almost every tag team, and then it has 340 HP. So it is a monster to knock out. Like, you're gonna 2-shot this if you're lucky. Otherwise, yeah, and it can play a bunch of like Galarian Zigzagoons, since it is a dark type, and you can ping 10, scoop up nets. You kind of make it so you can hit even up to like the 300s or 320 damage, and I think it's definitely a top contender in this moving on in this format.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Yeah, like looking at that card when it was released. Oh, cool. You have Skyfield as an ability. You have the potential to do 270 damage for 2 energy. That's just insane on a Pokemon with 340 HP, a stage 1 essentially. It was hyped up for a reason, and it's pretty much lived up to that. It's done pretty well since being released, and I think it'll continue to do that, because essentially, yeah, you stop at 270, which is weird to think that being you can do more because you have that Zigzagoons, you have the scoop up nets, so where you can hit that like 300, maybe even 320 if all goes well. You're OHKOing, Senna Scorcher and other VMAXs, which is really gross to think about. So I think it is it's deserving of everything people have said over about it.
For sure.
Mm-hmm.
And also oh, sorry, you go, Quentin.
Do you think we're about to enter into another darkness rotation, sort of like when
Darkrai when that ran the format for
and then when Zoroark came out and that ran the format, and yeah, I mean, Pokemon really likes printing dark types, and I think ultimately people really like playing dark. I think people really like playing dark type Pokemon. Like, I don't know, people really like them, so they just keep printing them. But another thing, this isn't exactly a Darkness Ablaze deck, but this is kind of a new deck that comes out with rotation. Is the Sandaconda V and Colossal deck. It's like not the most competitive thing in the world, I think. I think it has some potential, just because Sandaconda V for 2 fighting and a colorless does 220 damage, discard 2 energy from this Pokemon. And Colossals, it's a stage 2, it's Tar Generator ability. Once during your turn, you may attach a fire energy card and a fighting energy card, or one of each. Yeah, so you can attach 2 energies, essentially, from your discard pile to your Pokemon any way you like. I was, trying to read the card, but the print is kind of small, and I'm just like, what? But yeah, so you can accelerate to Sandaconda V with that, and you also have, since you have to play fire energies in the deck, you also have the ability to tech in some cool fire-type Pokemon, like Ninetales V is a really cool Pokemon that lets you copy one of your opponent's, your active Pokemon's attacks for a fire and 2 colorless. So I think it's a fun deck, kind of reminiscent of the Tapu Bulu Vikavolt decks from a couple formats ago, but I don't know how good exactly it's going to be, especially if Vikavolt starts picking up steam, because you do kind of have to rare candy out Colossal. But I mean, Sandaconda V one-shots Eternatus, and I mean, it does 220, which one-shots a lot of V Pokemon, and it just does a lot of consistent damage, which I think is pretty cool.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's nice to see actually having good energy acceleration for a fighting type, which I can't recall.
Never really happened.
No, there was, God, what was it? It was a Landorus from maybe 2012 that it accelerated or fighting from the discard, but didn't deal damage, and was never saw play because you can just play Landorus EX at the time, and you didn't really need the acceleration. But it's something cool. It's something new, and especially I think there was a card released recently. It's a supporter where I think, don't quote me, I don't have it up right at the moment, But I think you discard the top 5 cards of your deck, and all the fighting energy you find there, you can attach to your fighting Pokemon. Can't remember if it's any way or if it's just one fighting Pokemon.
That might
So,
be something that hasn't come out yet.
It is something. I was just like released.
Oh, it was just like
revealed.
Announced. Okay.
I just saw scans of it. Yeah.
I see.
But it's cool, like actually see something new when some of these things we've kind of seen over and over, like Eternatus reminiscent of Rayquaza, Mega Rayquaza, and just other stuff. Just it feels like it's rehashed a bunch of the Pokemon having kind of more refined abilities. Crobat being like Shaman, Eldegoss like VS Seeker, but it's like having some new stuff. It's like starting to come out more frequently. I don't know. It feels nice to finally like see some of that, and allows obviously for more creative ideas to happen.
For sure.
Especially accelerating fire and fighting. You know, being able to play the Ninetales or anything else you so choose to put in there to work around that. It's something I like because I like those more, I guess, out there ideas. Because it's just more fun, you know. Because the game can get boring playing the same 5 decks over and over.
Yeah, definitely like the idea of a format kind of changing up and things just being a little bit different. Pokemon's been kind of sticking with sort of the same formulas for the past few years. I mean, like they reprinted Professor's Research with Sword and Shield, which is, you know, discard, draw 7. That's been a card that's been out for literally came out 9 years ago, 2011. So obviously Pokemon is kind of liking what they've done before, but I like the idea of them trying to try new things or maybe revert back to even older format ideas. But we'll see what happens there.
Yeah. All right. I guess we haven't really talked about Salamence, even though.
Oh, true.
Salamence VMAX.
I don't actually have a
super
card
strong,
for that.
even though Nick.
Let me pull up
How come
Salamence VMAX real quick.
Anyway,
like,
so,
what that do?
Salamence VMAX. For 1 colorless energy, being able to do 40 damage to 2 Pokemon is pretty nice. And then for 4 colorless energy, it is 240, and you can't use the attack again. But, you know, we all know the drill of being able to switch around. You remove that effect when you hit the bench. And so that's fine and dandy. And with this set as well, they release Powerful Energy, which is a single colorless. And when it's attached to a colorless Pokemon, it provides 20 more damage, kind of like the old Strong Energy. And so, along with things like Porygon Z, allowing you to accelerate as many special energy as you want, triple acceleration energy, it's really easy to like get these kind of things going and really increase those numbers you need to hit some of those bigger one-hit knockouts. You know, you could potentially deal 320 damage with 4 powerful energy on Salamence, and you can afford to play things like Recycle Energy. So that removes like the need for switch cards because you just use them, retreat, go back to your hand, throw them back on with Crazy Code, and other things. With just that powerful energy being out, making these normal types stronger, and also having normal or dragon types revert back to normal types, can be obviously pretty strong in the future going forward. Just because those dragon types typically have like deal bigger numbers, at least from the dragon type cards that we've been having, and so now having them as colorless Pokemon. I think it's really good that they got rid of the dragon type. It was a cute idea, but I think it had to go because they were really seeing play with the obscure typings. So I don't know.
No, I see what you're saying.
Thinking.
But Jack, let's be honest. You really just wanted to talk about. You really just brought it up because you want to talk about Porygon Z because Zach just really likes Porygon Z decks.
Porygon Z. Well, yeah, they don't print bad Porygon Zs. Don't quote me on that.
Don't quote me on that. I'm like, we can go back. There's a Porygon Z GX that is pretty bad.
Hey. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it is.
I read it. I was like, okay, this isn't awful. And so I'll put it on my list. I'm like, one game. Oh, this is pretty bad. So we'll just throw the thing out of here.
It's fine.
Oh.
Hey, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I
think another. Go ahead, Trey. Go ahead.
I was gonna say we hadn't really touched on Mad Party, but I mean that being Night March in and of itself, it's Self-explanatory. Yeah.
Well, see, you gotta
Over here,
Nick's
he's
acting up now.
Oh,
Nick,
oh
go for it.
boy.
Go for it.
Man, dude.
See, he's waiting for that Vespiquen reprint next.
dude, Mad Party is honestly, I think Mad Party is gonna be good. I think it's one of those. That style of card is just always gonna be good, especially with more cards being released. And so, like, this is the first set. Like, rotation just happened, and Mad Party just came out. So now we have, every time a new set comes out, you're probably gonna be able to find more tools to use with it. And even though we don't have like Battle Compressor like Night March had back in the day, it's like you still have plenty of ways to discard cards from your hand, put cards into your hand, and then dump your entire hand with like Research or something. Familiar Bell is a super cool card from Darkness Ablaze, searching your deck for a Pokemon that you have in your discard pile. It's like, oh, I discarded a Galarian Mr. Rime. Okay, I'm going to Familiar Bell, get another one in my hand, and now I'm going to Quick Ball it away or something. I think it's very good. It's nice to see a single prizer that can kind of keep up with the format right now. I'm kind of wish ADP wasn't a thing right now, so that single prizers had an opportunity to shine more in this format. But I mean, Mad Party is gonna have to do, I guess.
Yeah. I always love concepts like that. I think the concept of Night March, concept of Mad Party is probably one of my favorites. It's an interesting way of getting all these getting these Pokemon together and then making a really awesome deck. And like there's single prizes too, which is always incredible to see in the format. I mean, really, we haven't had a format where where maybe like one single deck is out there that can do what Night March or Mad Party can do. And when Pokemon introduces things like that, I'm always so excited. Those are the types of decks that you can really like get creative with and can have a lot of different text to them, a lot of different cards that people prefer over others. So I was very excited to see that was a part of this set. Sorry, I cut you off, Jack.
No, you're fine. I was gonna say, I too like single prize attackers over some of these bigger guys that are just as strong and aggressive as some of these single prizes guys like Blacephalon or Mad Party being out. But I do like how, they as obviously Mad Party is obviously based off of Night March, and printing a card where it has its own little draw engine, but a more effective or another way to discard Pokemon along with drawing cards is like super strong as well. Like that's really good having that. Kind of makes up for no Battle Compressor, but not really, because that's just a broken card. And like Nick said, having ADP is really gross. But I don't know, it's just something that I prefer to play as well, is like just some of those single prizes, just because having these single prize attackers, you don't play a game that lasts 4-5 turns where it's just you set up a turn or two, all right, knockout, game's over. It makes for a much more fun game. So that's all I really was gonna say.
I know, I agree.
Okay.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of the decks that and cards to be that are pretty interesting in this set. Other than, I mean, and obviously we already have a video out about Toxtricity, and that deck in the milling is back, which was pretty interesting, and I really enjoyed actually being able to look through and see how that could work out. That's always been an interesting concept, is milling your opponent to win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think Toxtricity is fun specifically because it's like gimmicky, it's on a coin flip, so it's like, like you can win with it, you just have to work a bit harder. And I think that'll be a fun card to mess around with. And yeah. Oh, I think my dog wants in.
Oh, that's too bad. Oh,
I think there are a few more cards from the set that we could touch on, like the Stadium Spikemuth. It's kind of crazy. We're seeing a lot more Pokemon, I feel like, that are like, oh, let's do a ton more damage if the opponent's active has damage counters. I can't think of any of the specific Pokemon. I know I just saw a few in the deck reviews from the Pog Championship, but Spikeman seems like it would just be really powerful for a lot of those decks.
Doesn't Arctozolt
Spikemuth,
do something like that?
it is a Q card. So Spikemuth, when you move to the bench, you put 2 damage counters on that Pokemon. Arctozolt, when you attach an energy from your hand in any way, whether it's an ability or a support or you attach it from your hand, you put 2 damage counters on that Pokemon as attaching to. So something like Sable IV can take advantage of that. And a problem I think Sable IV has had is requiring 2 Dark to attack. And now with like Turbo Patch out, I could see. I was thinking of a list involving both of those. It would just be like a cute gimmicky kind of thing, being able to just build up damage counters across the board, along with goons. I haven't figured anything out yet, but just that kind of thing is really cute. Along with, and so since the stadium works both ways, something like it's on the tip of my tongue, a Spiritomb can benefit from as well, helping get those damage counters on there a lot faster. Spiritomb really hurts that it loses the rainbow energy. So just some thoughts. It is a good card. It has potential. So and then really I think we kind of did touch base, like Trey said, about everything new that's come out.
Yeah.
And so I think it's fair to look into some tournaments that have been some post-rotation format tournaments and what's been popular with them, and see if that kind of lines up with how like thoughts.
Do we want to talk
what
about the
people think would be good?
Do we want to talk about pre-rotation tournament first or post-rotation?
I thought we I guess we didn't touch on Pog too much. My bad.
You actually like go
I
over
thought-
like some of the deck spreads and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I have it up
Yeah,
on.
definitely. That was my bad.
Yeah, no, you're good. I have it up on the screen for the viewers, but I'll kind of give a little summary. The majority was ADPization at 22%, followed by Centiskorch at 12%, Vikavolt at 10%, Eternatus also at 10%, Pikarom at 6%, and everything else just kind of goes down from there. So, biggest takeaway is that ADPization was the most played deck. 247 people played it in day one of the POG Championships. Not as much Eternatus as I kind of would have expected, but I think it's partially because the set hasn't been out that long, and Eternatus is one of the most expensive decks to make on PTCGO right now. But yeah, decent amount of Centiskorch, which was a bit surprising for me. I didn't think that many people were going to play it, but yeah.
Not very much Mad Party.
No, definitely.
Yeah, no, Mad Party was
Sure.
only 2% of the field. About 23 people played Mad
Sad.
Party. But
Hate to hear it.
But after looking at the day one spread, we look at the top 32, and the first thing that catches my eye is how many Pikaroms made it into top 32 of POG. There's about, let's see, 1, 5,
I have
6,
it
7,
at 1, 2, 3,
9,
4, 5, 6,
8,
7,
9.
8, 9.
Yeah, 9 decks of the top 32 are Pikarom decks, despite it only being 6% of the field, which is pretty insane when you think about it.
That is a pretty yeah.
It was also the deck that won. The deck that won was the same 60 card list. Also got 5th. I actually know Will Jenkins personally. He's the one who, and Isaiah Bradner. Isaiah Bradner got 1st, and Will Jenkins got 5th. Will Jenkins actually had to concede his top 8 match as soon as it started because he had to go to work. So who knows? We could have had another Pikarom do a little bit better.
Right?
Yeah. So they played a Pikarom list with also 2 Vikavolt V, which is something different than Pikarom lists from before. Pikarom lists before were kind of playing more like they usually play 2 Boltund V because Boltund V for Lightning and a Colorless, it does 10 plus 30 for each Lightning energy you have in play. So the idea is that with Pikarom, you can kind of full blitz, get a bunch of energy in play, and then Boltund V to kind of sweep, just do a lot of damage. But they opted to play the Vikavolt V for the item lock. which turned out to be very good. Also, obviously, congratulations to Isaiah Bradner. He has had a killer season with his first season in Masters. He had 2 top 8 regional finishes this season and about 2 or 3 top 32 finishes at regionals. And then he won this POG championships. So good for him. Other than that, there's not that much ADPization, even though it was 22% of the field. Only 5 of them made it into top 32, with only one of them actually making it in top 8. Another big surprise is that Eternatus ended up doing pretty poorly. It only had 2 top 32 finishes, one of them being top 8, despite it being 10% of the field. Which you could kind of say is on average, but also Baby Blacephalon did pretty well. It got 5 finishes in top 32, none of them in top 8, but Baby Blondes did not have a huge showing percentage-wise, but it ended up doing well, probably just being able to do well against Pikarom and other VMAX decks. And then I guess the other interesting thing is that 2 different mill decks, mill/control decks, made it into top 8. No other ones were in top 32, it looks like. But one of them got second. That is Sander Wojcik. I do not know how to say that last name. He is from somewhere in Europe. I don't know that flag. But I've seen his name plenty of times before. I think it's the Netherlands. Yeah, that sounds right. I've seen his name plenty of times before. He's known throughout a lot of the Pokemon community. He's always been playing control decks. He's played probably every single version of a control deck I can think of over the past couple of years. So he played a Oranguru Chinchino control, and then in 8th seed, a Japanese player played a Mareep Magcargo mill deck with Mareep, the one that when it's in the active spot, you can put your opponent's active Pokemon to sleep, and then Magcargo being able to search your deck and put a card on top, and then also Magcargo GX to use its GX attack to mill the top 5 cards. But yeah, I guess some of the big takeaways I feel from the POG Championships is that I think Pikarom did so well because it still has Electro Power. It does lose that in post rotation, and Thunder Mountain. Those are huge aspects of the decks that help it accelerate and kind of be able to get that turn 1 full blitz and be able to full blitz for a lot of damage. But yeah, do you guys have any other points to make up?
Yeah, I think that
Go ahead, Jack.
That having the addition of Vikavolt is like super good, because just having that option to, if you don't get that turn 1 full blitz, just being able to sit there and slow them down with that item lock while being able to build your board up is good as well. And obviously, like we went over, has a good second attack. 3 for 190 is solid with having Electro Powers. And just being the deck that is, it's always been a top tier deck. And so I'm not surprised that it won. I'm not surprised that it had such, I guess, the showing that it did. But I am surprised that off the Pikarom topic, that only one Centiskorch made top 32, didn't make top 16, despite being the second most popular deck in the whole tournament.
I didn't even notice
things
that.
Like, yeah, but obviously after the rotation were things like Baby Blacephalon losing so much, like losing Fire Flint mainly, I think was the deck in. That's such a strong part of that deck. And then back to Pikarom, losing all those what you mentioned, really hurts just hurts the deck so much. So yeah, I'm not surprised by Pikarom winning, or really all of these decks. I kind of assumed ADPization. If it wasn't Pikarom, probably ADPization, or if I had to put money on it. And then only 2 control decks in this top 32. Did you have a list of like how many there were in total?
If we look at I'm gonna open up Pog Day 1 again. It looks like Control was put into the other category. So the other category is 23% of the meta, and that consists of a lot of stuff. So I do not have exactly how many Control decks made it in.
Yeah,
but
so it's like a super low number of people.
Yeah, less than 2% of people played Control. I do know that.
Yeah, I think that like the Oranguru Control / Stall Mill, super. I think it's been really strong, but losing Bilbo, Bryson, Man, and obviously Oranguru, the most important thing after rotation. So I expected to see more of that going into this.
For sure.
I guess that's all I really was thinking about that.
I'd say my biggest takeaway from Pog is I thought Eternatus was actually going to make a very big statement at Pog. I'm very surprised that, well, not only did fewer people than I expected to play it, but like you said, it's tough. It's one of the toughest cards to get, and also very new. People might have been a little bit nervous to play it, but the fact that it just didn't live up to my personal hype, I guess, when looking into this tournament. So that's definitely one of my big takeaways, is that it did not do nearly as well as I thought it was going to. And I actually haven't looked at any of the lists yet to kind of break them down, but I gotta expect that a lot of people made some pretty solid ones. So it just goes to show, Pikachu Zekrom must have been really tough. ADP Zacian and just kind of swarming around there. So.
Yeah, and I had a question for you guys about
and I think
the deck choices for this tournament. No, you're good. You're good. Just the prevalence of ADP being around 22-23% of the decks played. Do you think that's because it's been out a little longer than Eternatus, that it represented a larger percentage of the player base? Or do you think more people would have played Eternatus if it was a little cheaper?
Say people are pretty comfortable with
it. I think that in the pre-rotation format, yes, part of it was like, okay, we know what we're doing, but also just being only restricted to just solely dark type Pokemon is much more hindering than being able to use a bunch of the other consistency cards and other Pokemon that are available. And yes, I think all of those things are kind of what helped him, I guess. What all factors? Yeah, I don't know why that escaped my mind. But I also think that ADPization is it can be. Yeah, I think it's stronger, and yes, most people already have all that stuff online anyways. The part of it being online also I kind of forget about that for a moment when I'm looking at this top 32 list. So. But I do think that it's more than just one thing. I'm not sure exactly what kind of would have held people back from playing it if it was an availability issue.
Did you have anything you wanted to add, Trey?
No, that's really kind of what I was thinking. I mean, I agree. I was just gonna say it's probably, in my mind, it was probably more of a comfortability, being more comfortable with other deck choices over Eternatus. That's what probably would have stopped me, just because I know these other decks much better than Eternatus. So I can see why it wasn't nearly played as much, but the performance is mainly what I was pretty surprised about.
Yeah, my guess, in my opinion, I would guess that Eternatus didn't get played as much mostly because of availability. It costs about 100 packs on PTCGO to get a 4/4 line of Eternatus, and that doesn't even count getting the 4 Crobat V. So it's honestly pretty expensive to build it online. So it's Yeah, no, nobody really wants to pay like probably $100 worth of PTCGO codes just to play Eternatus for an online event. It's like if I already have ADPs, I already have Zacians, like it's just gonna be easier this way. Also, something to consider. A lot of people was what I heard from a lot of people that were posting about Pog, that were playing in Pog, that going second was so important in this format. Just because getting to play a supporter and in some cases getting to attack turn one was so good and so important setting up. And ADPization is one of the decks that really takes advantage of that going second. The lists are built to be super aggressive and go for that turn one altered creation. And if your opponent uses altered creation before you even get to play a supporter card, before you really even set up, sometimes you don't even hit an energy and you're just sitting there like, oh well, I've barely done anything, and my opponent is looking at me in the face saying, I'm gonna do 30 more damage to you every turn, and I'm gonna take an extra prize card every time I knock something out. Do something.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest thing for me.
Respond to.
Well, I do think Eternatus is one of the decks that can do pretty well going first, because really all you need turn one is an energy attachment on an Eternatus, and then you can still use a Crobat to help set up. I think really it's one of the decks that can do well against ADPization. So just people not having access to the cards that easily is probably what deterred a lot of people from playing it.
Oh yeah, that I agree with. Obviously, everyone you've talked or you've seen and talked to have more experience than the rest of us, because they've been testing and grinding out, trying to play in that tournament, which I didn't have the chance to. But no, definitely being so aggressive, needing to go second, and just really having a deck built to set up like that every game on turn two or going second. Is always much better than playing a deck that I want to go first because I have to evolve to get to my main attacker, and being able to find all those Pokemon to load on my board. It's not hard really, I guess, to argue after looking at everything, to which would be better and more beneficial in that kind of format.
Mm-hmm. And I think I think that's the same reason why Pikarom ended up doing so well, because Pikarom can turn one full blitz pretty easily when you have access to Tapu Koko Prism Star and Thunder Mountain Prism Star. When you don't do anything on your first turn and your opponent hits you for 150 and then puts 3 more energy in play, you're sitting there like, okay, you're scrambling to catch up. And I think the people playing Pikarom really took advantage of that in this format. From what I heard from a lot of people is that this was not a very fun format to play in, just because it was super reliant on going second and then high rolling going second, getting an attack off turn one. So I didn't play in Pog, but I'm personally kind of glad I didn't play in Pog, because of everything I heard about how the format just wasn't that fun to play, and that a lot of people were saying it's like you could tell that this format was not intended to be played. Like this was not people weren't supposed to play with these cards together.
Yeah, so maybe it was a good thing that the rest of the season was canceled, so we didn't have to sit through 3 days of the World Championships watching. All right, so whoever goes second wins.
I mean, at least for Worlds would have been post rotation.
That's right. Skip my bad. But
which is
cats.
I can't argue any of that, because I even playing, getting back into actually testing stuff now after the new set came out, playing against ADPization, and just because a lot of the things I was testing, like Eternatus, like Salamence, like Centiskorch, VMAXs that you just want to go first so you can get evolutions out right away. You go first. All right, well, I did what I needed to on the first turn. Oh, okay, cool. Well, you got a fully powered Zacian and you altered creation. Well, I'm boned, because now you take 4 prizes off my main attacker, and then you can just bosses orders around me, or you can just bosses, a Deden, Crobat, whatever, just some bench sitters. So playing against that deck is headache just because it like you kind of feel helpless in certain matchups where you're trying to
Yeah.
you're doing all that you can, but all that you can isn't enough for
It
what's in
really
front of
doesn't
you.
feel fair. Yeah, really doesn't feel fair when you're just sending up a basic, or not a basic, any like non-V attacker, and you're still, getting that 2 prize loss when you take it, or when your opponent takes a knockout. Seems like ADP is by and large the strongest deck in the format still.
I think it's definitely like just the most consistent, and it's definitely a barrier to entry in the format for sure.
Well, if you're saying it's a barrier to entry, what do you think is the best deck then?
I still, well, I guess for post rotation, I guess we're kind of getting into talking about that. I still think Eternatus is very high up there. I know there's been
for sure.
I think there's a lot to explore in this format, especially. Like, I think ADPization really takes advantage of regular V decks and single prize decks, but I think 3 prize or VMAX decks that can't get one shotted by Zacian V still can do pretty well against. I think it does pretty well against ADPization, just because you kind of have the ability to switch around and kind of avoid knockouts in a sense. So my guess is I think the best deck right now on paper to me is Eternatus, just because hitting 270 and then with the Galarian Zigzagoons being able to help one shot VMAXs. I think a lot of people are playing VMAXs right now because you need to have a way to beat ADPization, and to do that you have to have a lot of HP. So having a deck that can pseudo one-shot those things is really good.
I agree.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I get. All right. Well, I don't know. I wasn't like really adding anything new. I was just saying that I like the points you made, and I can't really kind of argue anything because I haven't played enough to get a grasp of how I feel things are post rotation.
Yeah, for sure.
But I don't really think it's like much of a discussion outside of I like those VMAXs, then trying to beat, trying to avoid kind of deal. So I agree with everything Nick was saying. It all makes sense. So.
Speaking of post rotation, we can talk a little bit about this Hegster TCG Top Deck number 2 Series 2 tournament. It was an 87 player online post rotation tournament. You guys can't see this chart, but I'll clear it up for you a little bit. So Eternatus VMAX was the most played deck with 24% of the meta, followed by Scorch VMAX at 16%. With ADPization right behind it at 15%. Then we had Inteleon VMAX at 10%, and Welder Mewtwo Mew at 9%, and then we had Lucario Melmetalzation at 5% and Mad Party at 5%, and then everything else kind of falls off into like one-ofs and things like that. But yeah, so. Obviously, in post rotation, Eternatus VMAX seems to be what most people are trying to play, just because it's like the latest and greatest thing. I don't think ADPization actually loses that much in rotation, if I'm correct, but it loses the Jirachi engine a little bit with a skateboard, things like that. So lists are kind of just going more straightforward, but I still think it's pretty good. Scorch VMAX is still seeing a lot of play, and if we look at the top 16 results, I think some of the biggest pieces of note is that Eternatus VMAX was the most represented deck with 6 spots in top 16, with 3 of them being in top 4. Second, third, and fourth were all Eternatus VMAX. And then we have Inteleon VMAX won the whole tournament. Inteleon VMAX Frostmoth. So I think that's a very interesting card that's come out. Well, not come out because it's been out since Rebel Clash. I think it just came out the set before. But it's seen a lot more traction nowadays with Its first attack is for 1 water energy Hydro Snipe, does 60 damage, and you may return a energy card attached to your opponent's active Pokemon to their hand. So you put your opponent behind on an energy attachment, and then its second attack, Max Bullets, for 2 water and a colorless, does 160 damage and then 60 damage to a bench Pokemon. So it's essentially just an insane Night Spear.
Mm-hmm.
And it also has 320 HP. I think the biggest thing holding Inteleon back before was the fact that it was weak to lightning, but since Electro Power has rotated, you still even Pikarom can't one-shot an Inteleon VMAX unless they use their GX attack, and a Vikavolt it's gonna take a bit to. I guess their second attack would also one-shot it, but those decks are seeing a lot less play because of the rotation of Electro Power. On top of Inteleon VMAX with Frostmoth getting first, in 11th place, Inteleon VMAX with where's the card? Omastar got 11th place. Omastar says as long as you have fewer Pokemon in play than your opponent, they can't play any item cards from their hand. So you kind of play that version as more of like a control deck, where you're using Hydro Snipe a lot, and they can't play item cards, so you're denying their energy cards and denying their ability to play item cards, which I think is pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. That's interesting.
Yeah.
The control
For
there.
sure.
Yeah, I think. Let's see. Any other major talking points? 2 Mewtwo Welder decks made it into top 8. It was actually the same 60 cards in 6th and 7th. One of the big things that they lost is the Solgaleo GX with Turbo Strike. It would do, for 2 colors, it would do 120 and then attach 2 from the 2 basic energy for discard pile to the bench, but it doesn't have that anymore, so it doesn't have that energy acceleration anymore, so it just has Welder and attachments, but it's probably the most kind of diverse deck in the format, where you still, you have a lot of options to use. Very cool. Also, the 2nd place Eternatus VMAX and the 10th place Eternatus VMAX list are the exact same 60. They ended up having to play each other in the winning end, so they didn't both get to make top 8. But Isaac Molaski and Justin Lambert got 2nd and 10th respectively, and one of them, and their list was pretty weird. They played a lot of interesting techs. They played Sable IV to be able to, use in combination with Goons to do a little bit more damage on a non-V Pokemon. It also has it's like Load Search or something for its first attack. For Dark Energy, you get to take a trainer out of discard pile, which is very cool. Nice little utility Pokemon there. They also played an Eviltal from, I don't even know what set it's from, but it had, for a Dark Energy, it does 30 damage and discards a special energy off the active. It also has Free Retreat, which is very cool. They also played 2 Dangerous Drill, which Dangerous Drill is an item card. You discard a Dark Pokemon from your hand, and then you can discard a special energy or tool card from one of your opponent's Pokemon. So their list had a lot of special energy denial, which is very interesting. Very cool. A lot of, especially Eternatus lists right now, are playing a lot of special energy cards. So I guess it's kind of built for the mirror in that sense, kind of slow them down a bit, since you really can only manually attach for turn. But yeah, other than that, Centiskorch also was underrepresented in top 16 of this tournament. Only one of them made top 16th. They got 14th place, even though it was the 2nd most played deck. So I think it just kind of goes to show that Centiskorch is maybe not as good as people want it to be.
Yeah, my initial reaction seeing that Centiskorch was that Heatmore from one of the Plasma sets.
You're talking about the one that
And I mean, that was discard, wasn't it? I don't know.
That discarded off the top, yeah.
Oh yeah, never mind. Never mind.
It's very different.
Yeah.
I'm looking this up. I don't even know what card you're talking about.
It was like an old meme deck.
Yeah, okay. You said Plasma Hemor, or like from a Plasma set, so I assumed it was a Team Plasma Hemor.
Oh no.
But no, okay, I remember this. Yeah, it discards the top 4 cards of your deck, and it does 50 times the number of fire you discarded in this way for 3 fire.
Yeah.
You can tell
energy.
Quentin hasn't
That
played
was
in
the
a while.
pre-release go-to.
Yeah, Quentin.
Sorry.
It's been a minute.
Sorry.
If that's the first thing that came to his mind was a card from 8 years ago.
2012. Yeah.
Yep.
It's fine.
I'm right there with you, Quentin. I'm right there with you.
Also, another fun deck. Another couple fun decks that made top 16. Mike Fouché at 12th place. He played Spiritomb, like we were talking about with the new Spike Moth Stadium. He also played 4 Cape of Toughness to make his Spiritombs have 50 more HP. So he he played Bird Keepers and Switches. So he was making big Spiritombs with a lot of damage on them and just Anguish Cry for a lot. Other than that, the 8th place deck was an ADP Decidueye deck. Decidueye with the 4 Deep Forest Camo ability that makes it so it can't get hit by Vs or GXs. It was a really really interesting list. Hegster TCG has a video out where he talked about all of the deck lists from this tournament. And seeing the list from that, it was just really crazy. It was like a weird greens engine where you try to alter creation first and then you go into the Decidueye. Very, very interesting list.
Sounds like it. And then, I mean, just having the Decidueye in there kind of threw me off, not going to lie.
Yeah. I mean, I think the Decidueye has a lot of potential in this format just because, since ADPization is such a barrier to entry in the format where it's like, okay, you have to be able to, you have to have a lot of HP, so you have to play VMAXs for the most part to, not just lose to ADPization. Decidueye is something that doesn't get one-shotted that can't be attacked by Zation or ADP, so, it's a non-GX, and it does well because it forces everybody else to play Vs and VMAXs. And so I think it's a potentially very good card just because it's like can't get hit.
That's very true.
I agree.
I would love to see that deck kind of rise in the meta and see resurrection of non-V decks or GX decks kind of make a resurgence because it seems like it's with ADP and especially Eternatus coming out in Darkness Ablaze, it seems like we're kind of re-entering a V and GX centered format.
Definitely in a 2 prize, 3 prize, in some cases 4 prize formats. But
which is crazy to think about. 4 prizes from 1 knockout. For me personally, haven't played in a while.
I don't like
sorry.
thinking about that.
No. Nobody likes thinking about that. Everyone's
Probably
like,
that.
no. It's like, yep, I'm gonna knock out 1 VMAX Pokemon and then 1 basic Pokemon.
Let's just kick the format back.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Knockout game. It's turn 4. Yeah, knockout
game.
Handshake.
Yeah.
Come on. It's fun.
I think
It's fun, and
I think one of the things that'd be cool to talk about, kind of going back into Eternatus, is builds tend to be pretty different between the Eternatus decks. Specifically, Quentin was mentioning this before we started, the Stadium package that people are playing. Some people are playing Chaotic Swells. Some people are playing Power Plants to make sure that other people can't use the Denes and things like that. Some people are also playing Black Market Prism Star so that people take less prize cards against their Eternatuses. What does everyone think would be a good split of stadiums to play?
I like the idea of the Chaotic Swells. Just because they only shut off GXs, so your Crobats are fine, your Eternatus is fine, because you don't play any GXs with abilities in there. And so I think I would probably prefer that over, was it Dark City?
Dark City.
Night City? Dark City, yeah. Just because you have your main attacker, Eternatus, obviously isn't a basic, so it only gives basic darks for your retreat. And you have things like Air Balloon and switches in the deck that I think that it can function. It's much better to have something that isn't the Dark City in there. So I think that, and I'm on the fence about Black Market just because it requires the energy attached. So I think probably if I were to pick two, probably just the chaos, because I think you could have more benefit is like a 61st, 62nd card. It's like it can have it in there, but if you're testing it, like probably be one of the first things you would cut, because I don't think it gains so much value, just because stadiums are so abundant as well too that it can be easily bounced. So, and then things like Marshadow as well. I'm not the biggest fan of that, but I really like Chaotic Swell in that deck over some other choices.
Something that I noticed from that 87 or so person tournament that Nick was talking about earlier was that a couple of the Eternatus lists were playing 2 Chaotic Swell and a Black Market, which I really like, because the fact that it's a Prism Star card means you can only play 1, but with the Chaotic Swell, you're kind of denying your opponent at least 1 stadium placement, hoping that your Black Market is going to be the stadium that stays put after it's all said and done and you're set up. So I kind of like that 2-1 split, but I also can see the benefit from the free retreat for your basic darks.
Dark City.
But Dark City. But like you were saying, that doesn't help your Eternatus VMAX, which is hopefully what you have in the active position with Eternatus. So I can see the pros and cons of both.
Honestly, I really hadn't thought about it very deeply. I agree probably more so with Jack on his stadium choice. I just don't think having basic darks be able to have free retreat. I mean, you're gonna have Eternatus out there most of the time. I can see how in certain situations, that's going to be helpful, especially if you get into a bad spot. But I don't know. I don't know. I really haven't thought about it that deeply. That's definitely something I'll be looking at though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Back to the, I guess, Dark City. I don't know, just thinking about it now while you guys are talking. One thing I could see benefiting, because outside of like giving my basics free retreat in case it's like later in the game they want a boss to stall, but if it's like a regular Eternatus and that is like 2 retreat, right?
Yeah.
So
the regular one might have 3 actually.
Okay. Because if it had 2, then you can just air balloon, which I think is, which would just be a better card to play in the deck than that. But
it has 2
like a lot of
retreat.
switch. Okay.
The basic.
So, but if you play like a lot of switches and the Dark City, and you try to focus actually more on using, Hoopa, being able to like move it around back and forth, having that free retreat, so you don't have to commit like an air balloon to it. If you rather have some other cards, other tools like I don't know, Vitality Band or Cape of Toughness, whatever, where you'd rather have that stadium because you'd rather go that route. I could see that, but I just think that, kind of like Quentin said, you have those Chaotic Swells early on, so that hopefully they're using their own stadiums to bounce that to the point where you have your Black Market out, and it's a lot harder for them to bounce the Black Market with a counter stadium. And so you just hope it stays out there longer, and that you're able to take advantage of actually playing the card and not having it kind of just leave play as soon as it entered. That's just something that kind of came across my mind as you guys are speaking. But what do you think, Nick? You asked the question, so.
I think this is a very interesting question that will probably get solved as the format goes on. But because the biggest thing for me is, like, obviously you make very valid points with the Chaotic Swell. Chaotic Swell is a very good stadium, where if you don't need a stadium card, you might as well play Chaotic Swell, because there are a lot of decks that do need stadiums. Specifically, a lot of fire decks need Giant Hearth, things like that. But I also see the argument for Dark City, like you said, like just having that mobility, being able to switch around, maybe be able to use Hoopa more easily. And something also to consider is kind of like the split of special energies in Eternatus VMAX, because you have Capture Energy, which is a very good card. Colorless Energy, when you attach it, you get to search your deck for basic Pokemon, put on your bench. Obviously very good for Eternatus, helps you find your basic Pokemon without having to use an item card to search it out. But also hiding energy is actually very good, which gives any of your dark Pokemon have like you attach it to for your treat. So if you attach it to Eternatus VMAX, now you get that mobility on the Eternatus VMAX, which can be very useful. So it's a weird mix because it's like if you have, because I've seen a lot of lists that play Dark City and hiding energy just so you have like a lot of mobility, and I think that's actually what's in the list that got 2nd and 10th at the Hegster TCG tournament. But then I've also seen like obviously like the power plants can be kind of cute. I don't think the power plants are that good anymore just because it's like you're really only stopping Dedenne with that. There's not a whole lot else you're stopping with it. But then I've also seen like Quinn makes a valid point with like the Chaotic Swell and Black Market Prism Star. Like ideally they would play down their stadium and then you play down a Chaotic Swell and then they have to play a stadium to get rid of that. So now it's like 2-1, right? And then they have to play down another stadium so that they can use it. And then you play down Chaotic Swell and then they have to play a stadium to bump that or something. And like ultimately you can make it so that Black Market Prism Star stays in play and it's the last one in play. So it's hard to think about. I haven't played enough Eternatus. I haven't tested enough variations of Eternatus to know for sure. I've only played with power plants in the deck, which I said I don't think is optimal. I do want to try out the Dark City hiding energy version just to see what that mobility feels like.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. I see what you're saying. Yeah, definitely. I think that. Oh, sorry.
No, you're good. I was just gonna say I think another interesting variant between Eternatus builds that we've seen at that Hexter TCG tournament was the Hoopa line. A lot of people were playing Hoopa, but which one, or whether they played both, was the difference in a lot of those lists. So I just wanted to know thoughts from you three about the different benefits that each Hoopa offers, and if you think one's better than the other for the deck or anything like that.
I guess I'll start off. I think both Hoopas are very good. I think they're kind of good for different reasons though. Like the Hoopa that does 10 plus 20 for each ability your opponent has in play, like that one can be good if your opponent really fills up their bench and you can do a lot of damage with that. But if your opponent doesn't fill up their bench, doesn't really do a lot of damage, especially if they don't fill up their bench with mobility Pokemon. Like it's just not that good. But it is very good in like the mirror match because your opponent's playing down Crobats and Galarian Zigzagoons and Eternatus VMAX. Like you can get a nice little one energy little hit on an Eternatus VMAX and then sweep in with your own Eternatus VMAX to finish it off. You can kind of do the same thing with the other Hoopa that does 90 if you switch to the active. The hard part is that you need to make sure you have that mobility. So like if you're going to be playing the one that does 90 when you switch it in, you probably want to make sure you're playing like Hiding Energies or Dark City. Like you want to make sure you have that easy mobility so you actually get to use it reliably.
Yeah,
for sure.
And, on the topic of like the mobility and stuff too, like having scoop up nets as well. You're obviously playing 4 of them because you can be playing Zigzagoons, and so just being able to like pick up that Eternatus. Yeah, you gotta reattach the energy, and we use your energy attachment with a turn where you don't accelerate energy, and then having that Dark Stadium or Dark City, and hiding energy retreat into something that you can scoop up net and bring it up. The mobility of that is like having all that. I thought like if you weren't kind of focusing on that kind of using that Hoopa, I don't think that much mobility is necessary. I don't think I haven't tested it, so take that with a grain of salt or as you will. But it just having free retreat stadium on top of free retreat energy on top of just essentially picking up Pokemon, moving back to your hand seems like a lot. But obviously, it worked well for these guys that made 2nd and 10th with the same 60 list, doing well as they did in a almost 90 player tournament. So just the sound of it didn't sound like it sounded like excessive to me, but obviously with the results they had, kind of just proving that thought wrong. And so I like the idea of that, and the idea of that Hoopa to do, was it 20 plus 20 you said?
10 plus 20.
I can't remember, I haven't played it. Yeah. 10 plus 20, and where almost all the Pokemon on their board has free retreat, or not free retreat, has abilities, sorry.
And for
then
your retreat if
one
Dark
energy
City's in play.
Yes, you're right. So I just kind of jumbled about in my brain. But like, I guess I never considered that because I should have. But that's super strong as well. Like, and obviously in that mirror match, it's swinging hard and only giving up one prize when, most of the time you're just swinging with 3 prizers. So that's a nice alternative attacker to really have in that deck, and that's a really strong thing to use.
Yeah, Jack, you hit a lot of the points that I was gonna talk about. I was not a huge fan of the switch in do 90 Hoopa. I just thought there was a lot of things that jumble together in my mind. You had to have a lot of moving parts. You had to have a lot of aspects to be able to do that effectively. And then I thought, once you've started doing that, it really feels more like a Hoopa deck to me than it does like Eternatus. Like that was just a lot. I mean, I haven't played it with that one, but I definitely think if these guys were doing that well with it, I mean, it's definitely something like to consider and think about. I much more favor the 10+20 Hoopa over the switching in, and I mean, there's with scoop up net, hiding energy, all that kind of stuff. It's possible, obviously, and it can work out, but I was less of a fan of that Hoopa.
Mm-hmm.
I
think especially with that super mobility build of Eternatus, the 90 Hoopa is really strong. But if you're not playing that Black City Stadium for the free retreat on your basics, then probably the 10+20 for each ability is the move. But I think the ultra mobility build of Eternatus is probably going to see a lot of success in the future.
Mm-hmm. Something also to consider is that the Hoopa that does 90 on the Switch, like in theory, this won't happen very often. You could in theory get a donk turn 1 if they start like a lone Jirachi and they don't hit a quick ball or something, and you're like, okay, cool, switch, okay, GG, let's move along.
True.
Yeah, and I wasn't trying to say that, I'm putting the ability Hoopa much higher than the other one. I'm just saying they obviously are situational for each. So I was trying to basically just verbalize my thinking process.
No, for sure. I think the ability Hoopa has a lot more potential. I think it's a lot easier to use, and I do think it is better overall. I just think you can, in theory, play around that Hoopa, so it doesn't actually do that much damage. Whereas the other Hoopa, it's going to do 90, and you have to work a little harder for it, but it does 90.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I at the moment, without kind of looking back at everything, I only think that ability Hoopa is just really there for the mirror matchup, because there aren't, in this post rotation from what I've been seeing, there aren't really Pokemon that or decks that have as much guys that kind of sit on the bench. Obviously, you got your Crobats and your Dedens to justify having up there and using it as an attacker, but I can't think of that. It won't be hitting that 90 or higher compared to the one where it just does the straight 90. So more often than not, the new Hoopa is going to be better than the other one. Mm-hmm. And that just an attacking situation. But for the mirror match, should the format become much more populated with Eternatus decks, that it'll find its way in there, probably in higher numbers as well, just meta wise, should it go that way.
Yeah.
Is that your dog that I heard?
I think my parents just put the dogs in my room.
Oh, because I heard a squeak or something. I
think it was the door.
Mine.
It was the door closing. Oh, there's Doug.
Duck squeaked at me, so it might have been her.
Wait, your cat's name is Duck?
We got Dog and Doug.
Yeah.
Wait,
no,
is
cat named Duck.
Duck?
Duck as in quack, or Doug as in Douglas?
Duck is in quack.
Oh, I thought you said Duck.
Nah, dude, that's Duck.
We're collecting our Pokemon. All right,
This is Doug.
Come here, cat.
Come here, Doug.
This is Cat.
I don't have a pet.
Come here. No, come here.
My pet's leaving.
Oh, you can see Kirby right there. He's
Go
sleeping.
outside and
Hi,
grab a
Kirby.
bird or something.
And Bella's also sitting here. but you've seen her a couple times.
All right, start playing Pokemon.
What, between them? Like, make them fight? I think that's illegal.
No, I was alluding to my cat pressing keys.
Oh.
No, not if you call them Pokemon. It's not dog fighting. And your dogs aren't big; they're rats, so it's not dog.
Hey, Kirby's a puppy, at
Come on.
least. Bella is like rat size though. But Kirby is puppy size.
Kirby is not age-wise a puppy.
Yeah, but he's puppy size.
Size, sure.
Therefore, he's a puppy.
Yeah, but doesn't get bigger than that.
Yeah, so he's a puppy.
No.
He's a permanent puppy.
You know what? Sure. Whatever makes your wheels turn. Whatever makes you happy.
Yeah. Do we have anything else to
All right,
discuss
back
for this
on the
episode?
Pokemon topic. Less about animals. I think we kind of
Animals
touched
are
base,
dumb. Pokemon are cool.
right?
Do we have any other points that anybody wants
Why
to
I
bring
think-
up?
I think so.
I don't think
Now,
so. I
unless
was
we
about
wanted to
say, I
talk
think we kinda
about,
touched base on everything.
unless we wanted to talk about anything like Glimwood Tangle, Rose Tower, Yellhorn. We didn't get to Sky Circus, Hydreigon, Snarl V.
Yeah.
I guess as far as Hydreigon, I hate it. At
Grimmsnarl.
stage 2s, they're not great, and it's a cute concept. Like, okay, Grimmsnarl puts energy back in my hand, and then I just put it back down. Well, you can't do that when you don't get a Hydreigon out. I'm just bitter because my last testing session I was trying that, and I just got really mad because I couldn't get a Hydreigon out. Oh, probably because I just
You
suck.
get item locked or
No, it's like I get rare candy or I get Hydreigon. I never get both.
lame.
I don't know. Well, yeah, just play ADP Zacian and just don't even worry about playing the bad decks. Sky Circus, I don't know. I think if they print some more cards with like that ability on it, I think it could be cute. But like the ones they have out now are just underwhelming. I don't know. It's like
Sure.
it's kind of like a Catterday where the cards weren't great. It's a cute kind of gimmick, but it's not worth playing.
I think Sky Circus has some
And I guess-
potential, like, because like some decks are already playing Birdkeeper just because Birdkeeper's a good card. So I think I could see situations where people tech in like a Rowlet because it's like, yo, if I play Birdkeeper this turn, I just do 60, and maybe I need to snipe 60 somewhere. Like I think you could see it like that. I don't think you're gonna see full Sky Circus decks
A
being
dedicated.
played. Yeah, like you're not gonna see full
Yeah.
Sky Circus decks unless they're a meme. I will say.
Yeah, because I don't think cause there's just the.
I was gonna move on. You can continue.
Oh, I was trying to like run off the list of Pokemon with Sky Circus in my head, but I think it's just the Swanna and the not Decidueye, Rowlet, right?
There's also Starly that lets you search for 2 cards out of your deck.
Oh, yeah, that's
I
it.
think there are 3 of them, right?
I don't know. I
Yeah.
was trying to start a fight.
I think it's those 3.
Oh, I mean, if they were relevant, I think they would, we would think about them. But I guess just kind of touching base on any other cards that kind of stand out, like you mentioned earlier. Rose and Rose Tower. Yeah, it's cute. Obviously, the gimmick is you play the Rose,
Play with
dump
them.
your energy, discard your hand, and then you use the Rose Tower to replenish your hand. Rose Tower could be cute. Obviously, Oranguru, when it was in format, allows you to just fill your hand to 3, was a good card. It saw a lot of play. But so I think Rose Tower will see a lot more play than just Rose itself. I don't know. I don't know. I think just playing a supporter to discard your hand and you have no reliable draw off that, or like a Pokemon that sits in play that you draw off of that doesn't rely on, let's say like Poltegeist, where you discard a Mad Party, draw 2, requires something in your hand to draw more cards. It's just I don't see it. I could eat my own words later when something better comes out, but at the moment, not worth playing and really in anything. Team Yellhorn, I like I mentioned far earlier in Andrew Mahomes' Vikavolt list, where he played the Yellhorn to kind of cause confusion, and with Birdkeeper being able to switch around there. And then Nick mentioned this to me about using Yellhorn when you have a Jirachi that's active and you put it to sleep. So it removes the sleep, adds the confusion, then you attach a U-turn board so you can still retreat because of losing a skateboard in the format.
That's what we
something
call a
cute that I
budget
didn't really think
escape
about.
board.
But it's also more cards to have there as well. Say that again?
I said that's what we call a budget escape board.
Oh yeah, that's a great value. But that's also a lot more cards to play too. But also causing confusion on an item, I think it's pretty good.
Mhm.
And so, but I think it's kind of what we really needed to touch base on and have. I think everything we've kind of covered. I just want to, I don't know, say now that Bird Keeper I slept on big time is actually pretty nuts. But I think, kind of going down the list we have here, I think we've kind of touched base on everything we've needed to.
Yeah. One thing I want to say real quick about Rose Tower, I think just the comparison between that and Poke Beach, which was around for many years as
In Tropical Beach?
Tropical Beach, yes.
Not Poke Beach.
Poke Beach is a
Poke Beach
website.
is something else.
Poke
That
Beach,
is something else.
No, well, anyways,
something
we
else.
know what you mean.
But yeah, Tropical Beach, ended your turn, but you drew up to 6 in your hand.
7.
I think with Rose's Tower, 7. Sorry, but I think with Rose Tower not ending your turn, that drop to 3 is really powerful. And I think that if we have enough decks in the format that find themselves just playing out their whole hand, it can be a really powerful stadium. But I think getting under 3 cards in hand is something you want to generally avoid. So I don't know how played it'll be.
But like, I understand that, and like I said earlier, the Oranguru saw a lot of
For sure.
a lot of play, and things like welder decks, you typically have a larger hand, and so it's not really gonna be beneficial there. But if your deck is really susceptible to like a late game reset stamp, they stamp you down to 1-2 cards, at least it's another option to help see more cards later in the game to kind of secure your board position, kind of like in what was it, 2017 Octillery, 2017, right? Octillery
2017, 2018.
legal. Okay, yeah. So when you get end down super low, it's kind of like that insurance policy you have on your bench. Okay, well I can still fill my hand up, so I'm not totally susceptible late game, where I still need a lot of moving parts, and if they end me down 1-2 cards and I need a lot more, it's nice to have. Same kind of idea with the Rose Tower, like even the Oranguru. But like I said, and I think while yes, still draws like a stadium like Tropical Beach, I still think it's not a same kind of comparison to make, just because one gets you much more. Tropical Beach obviously a lot better in earlier games, or in the early game for decks that need more cards to set up. So, but I do get like kind of what you're getting at.
I just wanted to make the comparison between draw stadiums, but as you're saying, drawing up to 7, it's a lot more universal. Play 3 cards from your opening hand and you can beach for 3, versus play at least 5 of your 7 cards to get any effect whatsoever from Rose's Tower. It's a little less powerful, definitely less universal.
Yeah, and having a Tropical Beach, you're playing around that to like, okay, cool, I want to be able to play all these cards and then draw a lot more, obviously, with this. So it's a lot more of a focal point than having a card that fills your hand of 3.
True. Very true.
Very true.
Yeah. So I
think
think
that's moving on.
that does it for us today.
Yes.
Unless
Yes,
anyone
it
has any
does.
final thoughts, any closing points. All right.
I think.
Well, who's sending this out?
I think Trey looks really cute.
You in the
today.
back.
What?
I don't see how that
that
pertains
was
to Pokemon.
that was my
Nick,
point.
What was your point?
That was
I
that was
hear
my point. Is that Trey look?
What
I
was
think
your point?
That was it.
I didn't hear it still. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
oh, I said that I thought Trey looked cute
I
today.
think we'll go home. I think we're gonna call it a day here, boys. I think we're gonna
Well, I
walk out
appreciate it, Nick.
on that note.
I still don't think Quentin heard it.
I didn't. Jack started talking.
I know. I started talking for a reason, so we can get us out of here. So we're gonna start derailing. We already have.
Gotcha. Right. Well, I think we covered everything that we wanted to. Make sure to like and comment down below what you think of Darkness Ablaze, what you think of the tournaments, and what you think of the decks that are doing really well and will do well in post rotation. Also, make sure to let us know what other videos you'll be looking for. We'll be doing these podcasts fairly regularly, and we already have built up a couple of topics we'll be talking about. So also make sure to subscribe to the Pokemon Trope so you can keep seeing all of our content. If you want to look for more competitive content, also look at Nick's personal YouTube channel, Fyclone. And I think that is all for us today. So thanks for coming on. Thanks for watching us and being a part of this with us.
Bye.
Yeah, I got it.
Bye.